Siri, can you help me find the British Army?
Ma'am, are you a time traveler?
Can you help me find my husband?
If you're trying to find Charleston, it's this way. The British are running, they got their asses handed to them. Have a good day, ma'am.
We're standing at the entrance of the Star Fort, which was the Loyalist defense, and you can still see part of the walls here, which are obviously not nearly as tall as they once were, but it's still one of the most intact defenses that you can still see for the Revolutionary War, you know, in the nation. But the walls had protruding sticks, sharpened sticks, and also lots of rocks and mud, they said, built up, so it was pretty tall at one point. And it's 8 points to make the star.
This map, you can see where we were walking earlier along the trenches that the Patriots dug out in the rifle tower. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, shooting tower.
So this was pre-1781. I'm sure 1760s probably, or earlier, because they didn't just build it overnight. Let's see what's in the well here.
Wow.
So for them to survive, obviously they needed supplies, including water, so they dug this well that they started June 12th, 1781.
Oh, it said at 25 feet no water was found and the effort was abandoned. The town's only source of water was Spring Branch, but it was well beyond the walls and within range of Patriot fire, so he hoped that he would dig into water, but they quit after 25 feet.
Now obviously some of us filled back in over the years. A few centuries have passed, so I can only imagine the defeat, the
disappointment of digging it by hand 25 feet.
Can only imagine, because this is a good sized area, but I'm sure there were a lot of people, a lot of men needed some water.
Seeing how hot it was in view.
I hadn't even thought about that, mosquitoes and everything else. So here's a little bit higher view. We're up on one of the walls here of the fort, what's left of them. Really interesting place that I'm glad is preserved. So we ran across what they are calling the communication trench that started down there. The red post marked the line going back to the Star Fort, and this was only 3 foot deep, and they call it a cover trench, but they actually used it for cover rather than actually being covered. They used it for cover, and this is where they ran water back and forth since the well was dry.
So after the 1781 siege, about 100 families left and took refuge in the town of 96. They were suffering the same diseases as the Loyalists, and those that survived some of them did follow the British troops to Charleston and never returned to 96.
So we're staying at the site of the original jail for the town of 96, and no accurate census reports say how many people were here, but they still had trouble. This was not anywhere near as big as Charleston or some of the other coastal cities such as Savannah and such. Anyway, so law and order was not the most popular thing, and for several decades people have been fighting for their freedom and safety. So you got to remember there was a lot of trouble with the Indians in this area back then in the 1700s. Anyway, we jump forward to the town of 96. David Fanning was a Loyalist. He was arrested in this case 4 different times. Then he writes in his memoirs he was tied up, chained, and shackled in the middle of a 30 by 30 room, 14 foot off the ground, with snow coming in. Of course, we'd love to see snow nowadays probably, but not being chained up with the windows open or whatever. So I can only imagine how tough that was. Anyway, he escaped 4 different times, and research told us that the judge only came to town twice a year, April and November. So you may have to wait around 5-6 months or more before the judge comes through town. Okay, so we're finally made our way up to the Williamson's fort. Obviously a recreation, but looks like a very good recreation. Now this is where James Birmingham, the first Southerner that would lose his life during the American Revolution, died at. And his remains, or what are believed to be his remains, were unearthed in 1972. And nothing is proving 100% that that is him. That's the only Southerner that died during that time. It's pretty cool. You can still see the trench. Pretty small area. I think I read that 2,000 loyalists came and only 600 patriots were here to defend this. Well outnumbered. The skirmish ended up ending in a truce after about 3 days, I believe it was. And again, James Birmingham, the only one that lost his life. It's crazy. The Jen's gonna walk down in the moat area, I guess you'd call it, trench. So if you were attacking, you would come from here, have to go down into here, so it would slow you down, and then go back up while you were being fired on from here. Tough position to be in down in the trenches.
Here we try.
And also the stakes here, the trees cut with points or whatever, would have been all around here as well. Go for it. So again, you can see how hard it would have been doing that under fire, and probably sick and very weak from starvation. But man, you were fighting for your life.
Sacred to the memory of James Birmingham, volunteer Long K militia, killed at this site in the Battle of November 19th through 21st, 1775, the first South Carolinian to give his life in the cause of freedom. Erected by the American Legion Star Fort Post 103, 96 South Carolina, November 19th, 1975.
So this is a monument for James Birmingham. Don't know where his actual remains are. His remains are probably still being evaluated, and again, they were unearthed in this general vicinity in 1972. You got to think where the marker is probably is the exact spot. But we're not 100% sure. So again, Mr. Birmingham, thank you for your service. We appreciate you. All right, so we've walked around, found the different forts. Really interesting place. I suggest you at least make the trip down or up here once. The Logan log cabin house over there, very neat structure that was built around. And in 1966 it was moved to this place. Again, no historical significance to this spot, but a historical piece of history nonetheless. It was built around, and a house just got bigger and bigger around it. Anyway, so we finally found the marker for James Birmingham. That was my goal for today. The first Southerner to die during the Revolutionary War. And again, it's a little trip up here. It's a little over 2 hours for us to make it up here, but well worth it. And we'll probably come back in this area again. Now we're going to go find something to eat and do a segment for our Taste Test Tuesday.